Surprise her with a beautiful Just Jewels emerald and diamond ring or this fashionable channel set anniversary band.
You're something else.
Featured is this Just Jewels pearl and diamond ring, or give her a promise heart ring with matching pendant and earrings.
Those special occasions will be remembered forever when you give a gift from Savoy's Jewelers. Savoy's makes glitter affordable.
It just doesn't get any better than Savoy's.
Surprise her with a beautiful Just Jewels emerald and diamond ring, or this fashionable channel set anniversary band.
You're something else.
Featured is this Just Jewels pearl and diamond ring, or give her a promise heart ring with matching pendant and earrings.
Those special occasions will be remembered forever when you give a gift from Savoy's Jewelers. Savoy's makes glitter affordable.
It just doesn't get any better than Savoy's.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to this edition of People. My guest has been in business for 38 years. And to stay in business in Sault Ste. Marie or in any community for that length of time, you have to be doing lots of things well and right. I didn't realize until I asked my guest to come on down and visit with us on our People program that he was involved in a whole bunch of other things. He's been involved shooting the rapids. He was a trapeze artist involved in a circus. He went to James Bay. He was a kayak guy. He was involved in gliding. He builds things. He's a most interesting individual, and it's with a great deal of pleasure that I welcome John Anthoine, Savoy Jewelers, to our program. And John, I've got pages and pages that I've done homework on you, and I'm just going to put it all aside here. I've known you for 35 years, and I can't believe some of the things that you've done.
Yeah. First of all, Harry, it's very hard to be modest this morning with you after a build-up you just gave me.
Well, listen, after such a build-up, we're going to run out of time if we sit here and just giggle at one another. Let's roll back the clock, and I'm going to hold up some pictures of the early days, the first Savoy Jeweler store in Sault Ste. Marie. You now have 3.
That's right.
And you're going back now to the year 1952. And I'm going to hold up a picture, and maybe you can explain how you got into business way back in the year 1952.
Well, believe me, Harry, it wasn't easy. First of all, I'd been in Canada for 1 year, very few financial resources. I hardly spoke a word of English. The first telephone call that came through, I didn't even know what they were talking about. And very stiff competition. So the only thing I had on my side was a lot of desire to succeed. I had a good, thorough knowledge of my professional skills, and a great partner.
Now, your store that we're showing here was right next door to where Guffin's restaurant used to be.
That's
located down near Queen and Bruce, where you are now.
Same location as today.
Now here it looks like a little hole in the wall.
It was. It was 8 feet wide, 1/3 of the building, and 12 feet long. Now, it was actually taller than it was long because it was like a broom closet.
The story of how you got into business is rather interesting. You had a partner, his name was Edmund Rossett.
Yes.
Okay, pick it up from there.
Well, I came to Canada. I got the job the first day. I said I didn't say I couldn't speak. Anyways, I went to a jewelry store and explained to them I could fix watches, and they caught on to the thing. They were Finlanders, by the way, and I learned Finn before I learned English. In any case, I was working for $38 a week at the time, which was about half of what most people would be earning at the same time. I was being a little bit taken advantage of.
You made more money than I did when I got into the radio business. A few years after you got into the jewelry business, my take-home pay was $31.02 a week, plus all the broken records.
I guess I did well. In the meantime, in a year's time, I saved about $1,500, being very stingy about my way of life. And Edmund, of course, that I've known for years, was working at the time as a building contractor in Sault Ste. Marie. And he came to Sudbury one day and he said, "John, I've got something for you." He was feeling sorry for me, working hard and making very little and going nowhere. He said, I got a little store that I have my eyes on down Queen Street. You come and see it. So I hopped the bus, I arrived here at, I think it was about 11 o'clock that night. He walked me down to the location we're at today, and believe it or not, he railroaded me into that one. He had paid the rent, he had got the place painted, the pale blue, beautiful color, and he said, this is it, John, go for broke, give it a try, we're going to make it.
Well, what background did you have, like in the jewelry or watch repair business?
Well, I was a graduated watchmaker. The watchmaking school was like a university degree. You get out with similar to an engineering degree. I had the options to go into work for Rolex, Omega, or Longines.
They tell me that you were a brilliant student, and out of hundreds who enrolled in that particular course, only 4 eventually finished.
Well, not really. 4 finished the watch that we're going to look at in a minute. But brilliant student, there goes my modesty again. I was doing well. I always managed to be a good scholar and worked very hard at it and did very well. I was given, I was lucky, because I came from 4 generations of watchmakers, and maybe that helps. But my skills, trade skills, were excellent. I was certainly among the 4 best. Sometimes the first, down to the 4th, we took turns. But I was on top of the class as far as watchmaking skills were concerned.
I'm going to hold up another picture, and I didn't know you were such a good-looking guy. I'll let the audience focus in. Look at the mop of hair that he has there. What's it say in that sign? Can you read it? Stop,
well, you see, at the time, yes, stop, we repair. Now, I was doing the artwork myself, and the little old man fixing watches on the side was a picture of me today, but I did it 38 years ago. In the meantime, I couldn't afford publicity. I couldn't afford to get anyone to do my artwork, so I did my own. The idea was to attract people walking by the store, and it didn't really matter what it was, to have them stop and look. And I was working in the front window, taking apart watches and putting them back together where people could see me do it.
Let me ask, over the years, and this is where John Anthoine becomes very, very interesting. Over the years, you did a lot of wacky things that people, if they really knew you, would say, that's not John. Now, since you didn't have 2 nickels to rub together, some of these things that you got involved with, was it to create publicity for Savoy Jewelers?
Absolutely. All
Really?
of the stunts that I pulled were done with an intent. I was told once that if you want to be successful, you have to be known. Makes sense to me. And to be known, I was doing things that people would remember for a little while, and I undertook a few projects.
All right, here we go with another picture here. This used to be an annual thing. I remember John coming to the radio station, and we were brand new in town, and he said, I want you guys to do a play-by-play. We know Harry can do play-by-play of hockey. I want him to do play-by-play of me coming down, that's John Anthoine, coming down the rapids, down the Root River. And we went out there, and here's what we saw. You explain what that's all about.
Well, it was, of course, it was me coming down in a kayak. We used to run in April when the water was high, and we ran an event that took us from 4 miles down the river. And we wound up, this was at the bridge, the main bridge past the trading post. Now, as you can see, the river is a little violent. It was rated as a grade or class 4 river. We had people from upper Michigan and down eastern Ontario to join us for the race. Now, if you remember, every year when I came to that spot, I used to spill over because I remember people like to see blood. So I flipped the kayak over. It was a very thrilling experience.
For you or for the cameraman?
Well, for the people on the banks. The water was very cold because we had ice on the banks and had no wetsuit. It was a cold experience.
Here's another photo, and this one takes you down at St. Mary's River, right?
Down through the compensating gate in the rapids. I checked about if that had ever been done, and nobody said no, never been done. There was no record of anybody ever willingly going through the rapids, and I thought, well, that's a pretty good stunt. So I talked about it, and I finally found a young lady in town who was working next door at the restaurant, Lily Blair.
I used to call her Diamond Lil.
Well, anyways, Lily was game. She didn't know what it was all about. She had no idea. She said, sure, I'll go. So we went, and we had the TV crew out, and we had the newspaper, and we went and shot the rapids. As you can see, it's pretty wild, too. To my knowledge, it was the first time that anyone had done it.
Again.
I got good publicity over that.
All right. Now, here's another career. You got involved in circus work, the trapeze.
When I was a kid, yes.
But here's something that's pretty simple. Here's John Anthoine. Should we have a contest and ask the people which one is? That's you at the bottom, right?
Yeah, that was the YMCA Circus. We put up a show every year with Gus Calkin and Margie Berzin. And that was the old days of the old YMCA. We had a circus. In the circus, I was the bottom man here holding, we had three fellows actually that used to do the handstand on top of myself. And we had a good production of various acts, but this was either Danny Nagallo or Ted Greco. They were both excellent.
Trapeze, that means up in the high wire sort
Well,
of thing?
trapeze was the flying trapeze. I've done it at the Gardens once. If you remember Barney Barnett,
Yep.
the circus came in town, and as a kid, I flew the trapeze, and I went to see the boys and said, well, it was on a Wednesday afternoon. We had Wednesday afternoon off. I said, could I fly the trapeze? They looked at me, you know, said, well, have you done it? I said, sure. You want to try it? So we went practice all Wednesday afternoon. And Barney was there. I said, not bad. So at night, in front of the crowd assembled, I flew the trapeze in town and jumped to the net down below. Very exciting.
Now, all this was to gain publicity. As
Yes.
we mentioned earlier, he opens up a business, and over the years, in those days, there were 7 or 8 pretty prominent jewelry stores in Sault Ste. Marie, and to sort of get your foothold on the market, you had to do a little bit of advertising, but of course, if you don't have 2 nickels to rub together, the next alternative is to do some of the wacko things that John Anthoine did over the years. Now, the clock, just about 40 steps or less from where we are located, is the old post office.
That's right.
Now the museum.
Yes.
Right? This goes back to June 14th, 1960. So this picture here is 30 years old, and the clock stopped. Now, if we can get a close-up of this, John, you can pick it up. There, that's you.
That's
okay,
right.
That's you there. You're way up top. What are you doing with the clock
Well,
there?
actually, we repaired the mechanical part of the inside, and this was another stunt. I went on the outside to set the clock. Like, you know, you normally fix the clock and you set it. So I took a ladder, went up 3-story high, and proceeded to set the clock. But I got good publicity over that
You
one,
got
too.
good, the clock, you got good publicity. Now, let's stay with the museum, because you donated something to the museum that you made, handmade. And, you know, if you think it's an easy thing to do all the mechanics, John mentioned earlier that to become a watchmaker is like graduating and becoming an engineer. And he showed me all the blueprints that went to put this together. And since we don't have the proper facility and the proper timing, we're going to sort of condense this, but these are the parts. You explain it from there, John.
But what happened? I was at school for the centennial year, special project. They gave us the task of making a handmade watch. Now, I remember the first morning
Excuse me, that's the centennial year
of the watchmaking school.
in Europe,
That's
right?
right.
Okay.
So we got the task of making a watch, and I had to design the blueprints, which I showed Harry, and drawn blueprints to make the whole thing. And I remember the first morning when I took a bar the size of this center section, which is the diameter of a pocket watch, and the bar was about 6 feet long, and I sliced a piece of it with a hacksaw and undertook the making of a watch. Now, I thought, as I was making it, I'll go for broke and I'll make 2 of each. So I wanted to embed one for posterity and made one that was actually the working model. So you can see all the basic pieces that are just blocks cut out of metal with a hacksaw. Every piece was handmade, screws were handmade, and before I did it, I made all the tools to make the watch by hand also. You can see the wheels all cut out by hands. Every little part, all I did not make was the hairspring and the mainspring. The other parts were all handmade. So it took a lot of time, a lot of effort, and of course the end result you have with you
I'm
here.
going to show the folks, I am going to show the folks the end result, which can be seen at the museum right here in Sault Ste. Marie. Now, this was made by John Anthoine, handmade, and maybe you can explain, part of it comes from a scrapyard, part of it was a mold that you had to go to
Yeah,
mold
if you don't
technicals.
mind, I'll just hold it for a second.
I'll
and
let you hold it.
I'll
Good.
show the back part of it.
Will
because
you face that to that, hold
Okay,
it towards
the
that
reason
camera.
I built the watch the way I did in an acrylic case was to show the working part of the watch. The watch in motion, as you can see, the watch is ticking. It's a chronometer, extremely accurate. Now, when I brought it to Canada, it wasn't in case. It was just a watch, and I decided to make an acrylic case. So I went to the hobby shop and got the clear plastic, made a casting of it, went to the old tech school with Mr. Reed, asked him permission to use a lathe, and I made the acrylic part, and I went to the junkyard, Collins, and I bought a piece of bronze, and I made the front part of it, put a crystal, got from a pen set a base of marble, and made a little desk clock out of it so that it shows the mechanism, shows the working of the watch, and you can stand it up. Now I decided, since it was apparently in checking with the museum in Toronto, the only handmade watch in Canada, I thought the best place for it was into a museum, so I donated it to the Sault Ste. Marie Museum.
John, as you look back, Savoy Jewelers has been a tremendous, tremendous success story. And I've often said, not because you're here, you've heard me say it before, I've often said the reason for the success of Savoy Jewelers has been that it's a family. Your staff stays with you. They make people feel at home. How would you sum up your success story?
Well, a lot of ingredients go into success. I think you have to be dedicated to what you want to accomplish. And when Edmund and I walked Queen Street when we started our business, as I mentioned, Edmund has been a great partner because you have to have somebody that you can share ideas and concept with. You have somebody who pep you up when you are a little low. And I said, Edmund, I'm going to beat them all. It was very pretentious in those days, but I can sit here today and say that we probably accomplished what we aim to do. Now, one thing came into place is that Edmund had twin sons who are now actively involved into the business, and in 5 years I plan to retire completely, and they are buying the business from me, and in 5 years I will be a thing of the past as far as the business is concerned. But we only could achieve the expansions that we have undertook in the past while Station Mall and Cambrian Mall because of the dedication that the sons have based on the same principle of making customers feel welcome in our place of business, doing the best we can to satisfy their needs and be dedicated to service, choosing our help carefully. And as you mentioned, we are very proud of our staff. And our staff works well. We have a good family relationship. And I think everything helps in making business a good business.
A lot of businesses in the 38 years that you've done your thing have gone down the drain. I can remember, you'll have to help me here, there was Patterson's on Queen Street. There was a Robinson's Jewelers. There was Whalen's.
Bloom's.
Bloom's Jewelers.
Yes.
Who have I forgotten?
Well,
like
there
the
was
old
Lloyd Jenkins at the Windsor Hotel. There was Montello at one time. Yes, of course, the thing in a business is continuation.
We've got a reader board that talks. Continuation. Now, how do you continue, like, before we even start talking about continuing, I had the good fortune over the years when I was with the radio station to look after Savoy Jewelers advertising, and John would say to me, well, you've dealt with Savoy Jewelers, just go ahead and do your thing. And it was very, very easy. But advertising from the days when John didn't have two nickels to rub together, and advertising in the media all of a sudden became a different thing, and then all of a sudden the Sioux started to change. Hours of shopping start to change. The complex of the community start to change. Shopping plazas came into being. One-way streets came into being. A long way from 1952 when Savoy Jewelers opened their first little store on Queen. I remember you asking me, what did I think of whether Savoy Jewelers should expand and open a second store in the Station Mall.
That's right.
And I said to you, John, if you're asking the wrong guy. I'm very, very conservative, and I can't see 2 feet down the road. And you and your partner decided that that was the way to go. Was it a tough decision?
It wasn't for me. It took a lot of talking to convince Edmund because he's also, as you are, a bit conservative. But I knew for two reasons. First of all, I had a feel that Station Mall would become the biggest mall in town, and I wanted to be settled there. The second thing is that by that time, Edmund's two sons, Richard and Roger, were already involved in the business, and I realized that to expand, duplication would be the best way to make Savoy's grow faster. And by opening one more store, we had a chance to do twice as much or more, which we did.
Now, not only do you open that store in Station Mall, a few years go by, Cambrian Mall comes into being, Again, somebody comes to you, plants a little bug in your ear. John, we'd like to have you in the mall. And again, the dilemma, only this time, there was no hesitancy on your part.
That's right. Because again, Edmund had 2 sons, and I thought with the other one, we'll open one more store, duplicate one more time, and try to make 3 times as much.
Okay, I've got some more pictures here. I'm going to go back in time. I'm going to go back in time here. The time frame on this is a full page that the Sioux Star put out, and I'm going to give you the exact date on here because it's on the back part. It's August of 1956. So you know how far back we're going.
You want to open it and
No,
show
I'll just hold the headline there and see if my good friend Bert can just zero in. Rediscovering James Bay by kayak. So while they're zeroing in on the headline and showing you with a whole bunch of your friends up in James Bay and you and your kayak, you pick up the story from there.
Well, Edmund came with me. It was another publicity stunt. I wanted to try to do something a little different, and it worked very well because I came back. By the way, Edmund could not swim a stroke, but he paddled all the way to James Bay with me in his own kayak. I was a little nervous on occasions. We went down some stretches of white water and rapids, and when we came back, I wrote the story, and finally, I got a very pleasant result. I got a full page on a paper. In those days, to me, was worth a fortune, and I got an awful lot of great exposure over that.
Is that you there? My goodness sake, you had a crop of hair in those days.
Oh yeah, as time goes, you do change a bit.
Why did you go to a place of the oddball things like the kayak races and the James Bay? Strictly for the publicity?
Well,
it's
2
got to be a
things.
little bit of an adventure.
Oh, I was, no doubt about it. I always like to see what's at the end of the road and around the corner. So it was it, but the thing of it, I tried to use my interests for good purpose and make good use of it. So every time I had the opportunity to get coverage, I took advantage of it.
You had the Sioux Star wrapped up, and a good friend of yours was a good friend of ours, bring back a few memories, was Tom Parrish.
Yes.
Tom Parrish had a real key part in helping you get your head together as far as a businessman was concerned.
He was. He was a man with a great wisdom who I understand has done extremely well for himself. But I don't know why he took a liking to me because I was just a young, poor businessman, but not spending a lot of money. He was my salesman for the Sioux Star, so he had a vested interest, hoping I would do better. But he always told me stories that made a lot of sense. And through Tom's training, I caught on to a few tricks that were a great help to me in life.
What was one story that you told me that time? You tell it.
Yeah, well, one story, was it fishing on the pool?
Yep.
Yeah, Tom told me once, if you have the biggest pool in town, Olympic size, the best fishing equipment that you can buy, and you sit in the pool and cast all day. If you have no fish in the pool, you won't catch a fish. He was trying to tell me something, and I got the message, is that it's no use to waste your money trying to catch a customer when the customer is not there to get your business. So he had a lot of little stories that relate to facts of life that to me were very valuable. And as the years went by, I realized that in January, unless you have a sale, if there isn't the money out there to spend, people won't spend it. But Christmas time, it's a time to spend it because they're out there, they want to spend money. If you put your name forward, you might get their business.
Over the years that I've known John, it's been sort of like, not the type of friendship that we socialize, but the type of friendship where we would get together, have a cup of coffee, and just touch base on what's doing in the advertising world, et cetera, et cetera. And I marvel at this man's success story, particularly, as I mentioned at the top of the program, how business changes and how things have to change and all the rest of the stuff. But yet, when you go into your Queen Street store and you go to the back part and you see a watchmaker and you see a goldsmith and you see some of the other folks, it's like the old story that the insurance had. We still do business the old-fashioned way. Would I be correct in saying that?
It's true. A lot of the principles have to remain the same. The basics, for example, integrity, hard work, quality, all the things that will bring people back, and we do get people back. I remember selling watches to customers in 1952, And they're still coming to me after all these years, and their sons and families are coming to me. Now, you and I had a great relationship, and I appreciate what you have done for me because you were also a good influence in advertising. You have a good common sense, and what you have shared with me was of great value. I give you the green light to tailor advertising. I always trusted you. I wanted your voice because I thought your voice was more or less the voice of Savoy. The way you spoke is the way I speak. People listen to you, people believe in you. And that's what I wanted, somebody that conveyed the message in the way I would have done it myself.
Now, I've got a couple more pictures I want to show. There's one I don't want to pass up, and this is almost 30 years ago. A jeweler, handmade clock, took 500 hours. Now figure out 500 hours, how many weeks, months. Here's a clock, a handmade clock, which took John Anthoine of Savoy Jewelers in Sault Ste. Marie 500 hours to complete. Now, we'll show the picture, and maybe you can pick up the story on how this wound up where and what magazine.
Well, okay, this was in a trade magazine from the Canadian Jeweler Association. It's again a project that I undertook. It was in its days an electrical clock, which wasn't very common. I designed the clock and I drew the blueprints, which we saw a while ago, all hand-drawn blueprints. I manufactured everything by hand, even the coil, except for the cabinet. Cabinet was manufactured by a cabinet maker because I didn't have the skills as a woodworker to bring the quality into it, but the tick-tock part of it was mine. And it's still working. I've got it at home.
I've got something on the back part that I was just looking while I was holding it up to the camera. I'm looking at the back part, and there's a cartoon here. It says, I'm looking for a watch band like this that I think is rather humorous.
A stretch band.
I'm looking for a watch band. Like, I hope she don't let it go because that guy could be in trouble.
Yeah, this was the back page of the trade magazine.
What's the future for jewelry stores? Like right now, as you look around, the whole concept of business has changed dramatically. The small guy gets eaten up and it's all big guys. What's the future?
Well, I think the future is always great if you do the right things. Like in our business, we try to upgrade all the time. Our employees take courses. We take courses. We attend seminars. We want to be up to date. In fact, we talked about the old principles a while ago, the old country principles that are excellent, basic principles, but you have to keep up with the times. And if you stay old-fashioned, you're gone. So to be up on top, you have to follow the trends. You have to study marketing, you have to study merchandising, and you have to have constant training of your personnel.
Have you ever thought of expanding beyond the boundaries of Sault Ste. Marie, like Elliott Lake?
No. Well, we had not personally, but I mean, it was proposed to me. I even went to Elliott Lake to look at it. Myself, the concept of business that I have is close supervision. You have to live with your staff. You have to live with your customers. And I think the remote control operation cannot succeed the way we succeed. We have to be right on top of it. If you see my Queen Street operation, I moved from one office to the middle of the store. I can see everything, hear everything from where I sit. And that's the way I see it. Right in the middle of the operation where you know everything that's going on.
You've been blessed in a lot of ways to have a partner like Edmund and to have two really terrific boys like Roger and Richard Rossett who have just fitted in like a good glove.
Yeah, exceptional for a partnership to last 38 years.
John, I have to say thanks. It's been a delightful, delightful visit, reminiscing with you. Success only comes because you work hard. And here's a guy with staff that have worked extremely hard in this community who have made a name for themselves and a name that will stand up in this community for a great number of years, Savoy Jewelers. And our thanks to you,
Harry.
John.
It was a real pleasure being with you
class.
this morning.
John Anthoine, Savoy Jewelers, people, good people. And we'll be back with another edition in 7 days. My name, Harry Wolfe.